So in this video, I just want to continue to expose the fact that the High Court have actually ruled in my favour, and they have stated and concluded and ruled that my 30-day imprisonment was wrongful. I was wrongfully incarcerated for 30 days according to the High Court of Ireland, and they haven't motioned or moved or mentioned compensation. This is an utter failure, according to the Constitution of Ireland, on the part of the judiciary and the government. And the fact that they're all turning a blind eye to this is a crime in and of itself. So not only have they harmed me wrongfully by wrongfully incarcerating me, and wrongfully, according to the Court of Ireland, the High Court, reduced my liberties in terms of freedom of expression for 2 years under threat of arrest and imprisonment. This has been ruled by the High Court of Ireland, yet the High Court have not motioned, as is their constitutional duty, to compensate me monetarily for that harm done. So now we're seeing that they're intending to further harm me by further removing my liberties and rights. So it's not as though they've ceased harming me by way of the High Court ruling. They're continuing to do so. Now the High Court have jumped on the bandwagon by not compensating me. So the court that ruled I was treated unlawfully are now treating me unlawfully by failing to compensate me monetarily. Now, it's not about money for me, but it is about justice and the duties of the state being carried out, and people not being left in ignorance as to what should be considered the expectation upon our judiciary and our government as it pertains to proper procedural protocol or administration, or how the court runs, being carried out by our officials. So we put them in that place. They have certain rules to follow, and they're not doing it. It's in the Irish Constitution that if somebody is wrongfully arrested or incarcerated or has any reduction of liberty wrongfully, that they are to be compensated for that removal of liberty. To give you an example, in England, in the UK, they have an amount of £6,000 awarded to somebody wrongfully imprisoned per 24 hours. So that would be 31 by 24 hours. So that would be 31 by £6,000 that would be due me if I were in the UK. Ireland also has a similar sort of system where they have allocated certain amounts for the time. So it's like if you've been wrongfully imprisoned for a day, they should give you a certain amount to compensate you for that time that was taken out of your life and the stresses and strains of imprisonment, the reduction of liberty, and the potential harm to your good name as by way of being imprisoned. So, because it's sort of a stigma you don't shake, you know what I mean? That's why the compensation should also include the reinstating of the so-called good name. That's how it's worded in our Constitution, that the good name of the person would be restored. So in other words, so it wouldn't affect your future employment or how you deal with people in the society, in the community wouldn't sort of look at you sort of differently now because you've been in prison. They must say, this person was wrongfully imprisoned. They did nothing wrong. So it's best that we sort of, remove any stigmas or negative associations that might be attached to their name now by way of our wrongful action against them. So that's just the restoring of your good name before the community. They haven't really done that for me. So all of these things, which are my constitutional right, are still being denied me by the powers that ruled that I was treated unlawfully. So can you imagine the court that ruled, yes, this man was treated unlawfully, are now treating me unlawfully by not compensating me for what they said this man was treated unlawfully for. They're not compensating me for the harm that has been done to me, therefore continuing to do harm to me as it pertains to my rights as an Irishman. So if somebody jails you for 30 days, it makes sense that there would be a monetary value placed on that, so that the people who are watching could see they did wrong, so that the government could see they did wrong, and so that there's a value on your liberty that is tangible when people invade it. So that's why it's important that I follow this up, so that people don't get the message the government can just roughshod over anybody for 2 years or 3 years and there's no real value placed on it monetarily in terms of how that person's life was affected. So this is why we put monetary values on these things, so that there can be a real tangible value that everybody can relate to, restored to that person for the harm that was done to them. So this restoration of compensation should be made by those who have ruled that you were treated wrongfully. So now they're sort of saying, yes, this man was treated wrongfully and we've ruled that, but we're doing nothing about it. Okay, thank you, come again. Do you know what I mean? So they're saying, you have done wrong to this man. Bye, everybody. You've done wrong to this man. Bye, everybody. No, you've done wrong to this man, and we have a monetary value placed on that the state now must restore to this man because you harmed him by way of reduction of liberty or removal of liberty for a time. So the 2 years where they told me, you can't speak in public or we're putting you in jail, effectively, they have to put a monetary value on that and restore it to me. Because it's a reduction of liberty, unlawfully, because the High Court ruled that the civil order that was placed against me was unlawfully given. So the state have to, it's constitutionally their duty bound to compensate me monetarily for the harm they've done to me, that they've admitted was done to me by way of a High Court ruling. So now they're saying, yes, this man was absolutely harmed. That's all they've done. They've just said, yeah, he was harmed. Okay, and? Court dismissed. What? What madhouse is that? What kind of a madhouse says, yes, we the state harmed this man. Everybody have a nice day. No, we the state harmed this man. Now we have to collectively put a monetary value on the harm that we've done to him and pay it to him, because that's what our constitution says we must do. So that the fact that these people are educated to the standard of judge, to the standard of barrister, to the standard of state solicitor, to the standard of superintendent, means that they should know this. And if they don't know it, they're totally incompetent at their job, because it's basic and fundamental to upholding your rights, which is their job. Their job is to uphold the Constitution and to uphold your rights. That's actually their primary function. So the fact that the state are now saying, we have harmed this man, that'll be all, is a treason. They're actually sitting on an egg of treason. And it's about to hatch, because the longer they delay it after they've said they did wrong. The state said, we did wrong to this man. Oh, you harmed him. You mean he was wrongfully imprisoned for 30 days? Yes. Not only that, but there was a wrongfully arrived at civil order that was placed upon his life that saw him incapable and unable, unless he wanted to be arrested, speaking in public for 2 years. Oh, and recording. Speaking and recording, you can't even remove those things from a person. Yeah, but we did for 2 years. But you can't even remove them in prison. But we did for 2 years wrongfully. So the High Court have ruled that they've wrongfully imprisoned me for 30 plus days, wrongfully told me I couldn't speak for 2 years or I'd go to prison, and haven't motioned, moved towards or mentioned compensation, which is their constitutional duty. That's where the state of Ireland are now sitting. That's where the High Court of Ireland are now sitting. And do they think I'm just going to say nothing about it? Do they not think that I value the rights of the youth, the rights of the Irish person, that I would just stay quiet now? Do they think I went to prison for 30 days and had my rights removed for 2 years just to make some money off the state? It's the constitutional duty of the state to compensate me now for what they've done wrong to me. If they fail to do that, they could be arrested. Those men and women, whoever's involved, could actually be put in prison themselves if they don't compensate me. Because they're committing treason. Because it's fundamental to your rights and freedoms that there's an expectation upon the state that they never encroach upon them, wrongfully or unlawfully. So let it be seen in Jesus' name. Let the God of heaven see it and do as he wills. The people of Ireland can now see that the High Court of Ireland are acting criminally. They're actually acting criminally. And it's my duty to expose that corruption as a Christian. You know, Jesus said to us, preach the gospel in season and out of season, and have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. I have thoroughly exposed them. The High Court themselves, just let this register. It's a constitutional duty of the state that whenever somebody is wrongfully imprisoned or unlawfully harmed and had their rights or liberties reduced or removed, that person must be compensated for that harm. So the fact that they haven't compensated me for that means that they're continuing to harm my rights and yours, because you're also a citizen. So if they would treat me like this, would they treat you like this? We have to say, enough is enough, court. You have acknowledged that this man has been unlawfully imprisoned. It's now your constitutional duty to monetarily compensate him for that. In England, it's £6,000 per 24 hours for wrongful imprisonment in the form of compensation. I had my liberties reduced under threat of arrest. They told me, you cannot speak as a preacher. You cannot even record as a citizen. You can't remove them. No court can remove them. For 2 years. Then the High Court said, we shouldn't have done that to him. It was unlawful. We wrongfully did that. The civil order wasn't valid. The High Court have ruled that now. So there's been a reduction of rights and reduction of liberties against me that the High Court have acknowledged and haven't moved their motion to compensate me. It's not my duty to follow that up with plenary proceedings. It's not like I tripped over a drain that the council should have had flat against the road. They have said it themselves that the state have harmed me. So the state are saying the state harmed me, and the state are doing nothing about that harm that the state did, even though it's the state's responsibility to ensure that I'm compensated by the state. So why aren't they doing it? It's absolutely their lawful duty to do so. So I can't rest, because it's my right, and it's your right, and it's the right of the children coming up, and the expectation of the state that they don't just willy-nilly harm somebody for 3 years and not have to pay for it, to compensate that person for the harm that's been done to their life. Because it's psychological harm, it's physical harm, it's occupational harm, it's reputational harm, it's time harm, it's trauma harm, it's all manner of harm when you imprison somebody wrongfully, because they shouldn't have been imprisoned. You steal that time from them and you put them through a trauma they didn't deserve for what they did. That's why it has to be compensated for. And now the state have admitted that they've done that wrong and aren't compensating. They haven't even mentioned it. Yet, when I went to the High Court, they compensated me €150 for the day's costs. So they have admitted that they're in the wrong and that I'm due compensation. But they haven't compensated me for any of the previous procedures or my time in court or anything of that nature as a result of the High Court ruling. So not only is there harm done to my life by way of the reduction of the liberties, but there's harm done to my life by way of the time it cost me to engage the procedures that resulted of those wrongful arrests, imprisonments and reductions of liberties for 2 years. So there are all manner of costs to be considered. And they haven't mentioned one nor compensated me a single cent. All I got was the court costs from the appeal of the state that went to the Court of Appeal. The High Court didn't mention compensation committing treason against the citizen of Ireland, because my rights are yours. So hopefully they see sense now and they start moving towards doing the right thing before this gets serious against them, because the price of treason is a life imprisonment. Blessings in Jesus' name.